You probably can't remember the last time you had to scrub bugs off your windshield. For many of us, that used to be just part of a summer drive. After a long day on the road, the windshield would be covered in tiny marks. You would stop for gas, grab a rag, and wipe them away without a second thought. Now look at your windshield. Chances are it's clean. After a full day of driving, almost clean. Maybe you decided that was simply more convenient, that cars had become more aerodynamic, that roads had become smoother. But convenient isn't the word. Something disappeared, and you didn't notice when. This is a story about a small trace that had been beside you your whole life. So close, you stopped seeing it, and about what that trace meant. What collected on the glass wasn't dirt. It was a record. For nearly a century, the windshield showed us how much life was moving through the air around us. A moth here, a beetle there. The air was full. You never paid much attention to it. Almost no one did. It was simply what you washed off the glass. Now there is almost nothing left to wash away. In one study, drivers across Britain recorded the insect marks on their license plates after every trip. Between 2021 and 2024, the number of marks they recorded fell by about 63%. In just a few years. The researchers themselves are careful. The study period was short, and weather can make one year very different from the next. But the direction they saw was the same one you saw, on your own windshield. A clean windshield doesn't mean cleaner air or better cars. It means the sky in front of you is a little emptier. All your life, you have been reading a page that is slowly going blank. The trace on the glass was something you could see and touch. You could gather it over a day's drive, then wipe it away with your hand. Evidence you could hold in your palm. But there was another sign of a living world, one that left no trace at all. You couldn't collect it or touch it. It was simply there, all around you. A summer evening used to have a sound, not one you listened to, a layer beneath everything else, a low, warm hum. The grass, the dusk, the air itself, busy, alive. Step outside tonight, into the warmth. It is still beautiful, still peaceful. But listen for what isn't there. The hum has grown thinner. The evening is quieter than the evenings you remember, not silent. The city is still breathing. One layer is simply gone, the one you never noticed, but were always hearing. You noticed the windshield because you touched it with your hands. This is much harder to notice. It was the background, and the background is going quiet. A street light at night. Nothing unusual. The light is on. Look at the cone of light beneath it. Nothing crosses through. Once a light like this was a small storm. Moths, gnats, anything with wings, circling, tapping against the glass. A porch light in summer was never still. Now the light is on, and the air around it is empty. For millions of years, the small creatures of the night found their way by the moon and its light, distant, faint, steady. Then we lit the ground. To an insect, a bright lamp is a moon fallen to earth. They circle it until they have no strength left, or until morning finds them there. A single street light can quietly empty the night around it. This is one mechanism, not the only one. Just the easiest to see, because change is rarely one thing or the work of a single culprit. Within a single human lifetime, the world became brighter, tidier, more uniform, and warmer, and each of those changes pulled in the same direction. We never decided to empty the night. We simply turned on the lights. Until now, this has been something you could only feel. A clean windshield, a quiet night, an empty street light. And feelings like that are easy to blame on memory. Maybe it only seemed different. Summers felt longer then. The grass looked greener. So here is one number, from one place. Enough to know this isn't only memory. In protected nature reserves in Germany, land fenced off, watched over, and largely left alone, researchers spent 27 years weighing flying insects. The same traps, in the same places. Over that time, the total weight fell by more than 3/4. On protected land, the very place where, in theory, nothing should have changed. It isn't the same everywhere, and that matters. In some places, the decline is gentler. Near water, some insects are even recovering. Choose a different field and you will get a different number. Scientists are still debating how deep the decline goes and how far it reaches. But across much of Europe and North America, the overall decline is no longer in doubt. The feeling wasn't wrong. The empty windshield and these numbers are telling the same story. You can hear all of this, the windshield, the silence, the numbers, and feel nothing at all. Insects. Who would miss them? Then walk into the kitchen. Look at your plate. An ordinary one. More of what is on that plate than you might think is connected, one way or another, to pollinators. Not all food depends on them directly, and there is no single exact share. But much of what feels ordinary rests on that connection, and it is more fragile than it looks. Without pollinators, a crop usually doesn't vanish. There is simply less of it, and the quality is poorer. Apple trees need bees. Almond trees do too. Many fruits and berries simply do better with pollinators. Not because we have to love insects, because a great deal of the world quietly rests on them. Beneath the birds, beneath the harvest, beneath an ordinary Tuesday. A layer of small creatures holding it all up. You never thought about them. You weren't supposed to. That was the point. They worked in the background, like the sound of a summer evening, like the marks on the glass. Somewhere, a farmer is already renting beehives and bringing them in by truck, doing by hand what the field once did on its own. For free. The small was never small, it was simply quiet, and we mistook quiet for unimportant. Get back in the car. The same road, the same summer, the same windshield. Tonight, you will drive home the way you always do. And when you arrive, you will do something you have never done before. You will look at your windshield. It'll be clean, the way it always is now. Only now, you will know what clean means. Not a better car, not a smoother road. Just a little less life in the air ahead of you than there was in the air your parents drove through. We notice change when something new appears. But sometimes change arrives another way. Nothing appeared. There was simply less of something. That is why we missed it.